Plus,
I wanted to make a bigger.
Yeah, I was slammed, so
I was too.
I'll have to ask about how that went.
Yeah.
And he was like,
You ready?
some of them.
It seemed to me like a 3-hour meeting looking at the agenda, and I thought,
Okay, good evening.
So we'll get it.
Good evening, everyone. It's 6 p.m. It's time to call the Franklin City Council meeting to order on December the 16th, 2024. Ms. Jones, roll call, please.
Mr. Austin,
Present.
Mr. Shuck,
Here.
Ms. McGinnis,
Here.
Ms. Nally,
Here.
Ms. Price,
Here.
Mr. Prine,
Here.
Mr. Taylor.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Brian Reese with the prayer and pledge, please.
Yes, sir. Invite you to join me. Our Father, we come before you this evening, and we thank you for the privilege of being here tonight. I pray that everything that's on the agenda tonight, that you would just give the council wisdom and discernment on decisions they have to make. We thank you for the privilege it is to be here, just to honor these first responders and just the great work, some just outright heroic work that they do. And we pray that you just bless them for the work they do. Thank you for their families and how much they sacrifice and give them up so that they can serve our community to keep us safe and protected. And I just thank you for that. And I pray tonight that you would just help us to see just how incredibly blessed we are in our city. And we pray be with the rest of this meeting, and we ask this in your name. Amen.
amen.
I invite you to stand with me. Place your right hand over your heart, and let's repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Ryan. We appreciate you coming and doing this every meeting, so thank you. Next on the agenda is announcements and public comments. At this time, we have a pretty exciting lineup here. We're going to swear in Captain Ryan Mears, and then we're going to look at, after that, a life-saving award and some commendation awards. So, Ryan, we're ready. Everybody runs to get out of the pictures.
Yeah, I'll break the camera.
So Kirby may want to give a little history on Ryan, been with the department, how many years?
Yeah, Ryan's been with us for well over 20 years in a lot of capacity. So for me, I'm really appreciative that Ryan's accepted this role. It's going to be a good fit for the department. His culture and his thought process is very similar to the current administration. I think we're going to do good things going into the next year and beyond. So I appreciate that, Ryan. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Ryan. So raise your right hand. I, Ryan Mears,
I, Ryan Mears,
have been appointed as captain
have been appointed as captain
for the Franklin Police Department.
for the Franklin Police Department.
I swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
I swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and that I will obey the policies, procedures, and practices
and I will obey the policies, practices, and procedures
of the City of Franklin Employee Handbook,
of the City of Franklin Employee Handbook,
and that I will obey all lawful orders
and that I will obey all lawful orders
and faithfully discharge the duties of my position
and faithfully discharge the duties of my position
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Sure.
I'm in or out?
All right, no, come on in.
Next up, Jesse Brown, come on down. This is the privilege tonight to be able to present this to Jesse Brown. Jesse's been with us for a long time. He's currently a sergeant on shift, working the K-9 as well. This incident that we're gonna talk a little bit about, hopefully we'll try and get through it. Kind of an emotional thing, but we wanna thank Jesse for his work. This was brought to our attention by Lieutenant Kite, who's also here, I believe. I'm gonna give you the short version. Deputy Chief Summers is gonna read the letter from the child's mother. This is a lifesaver that, and basically it says, Sergeant Crowd informed me of an incident that took place in early October. In the early morning hours of October 5th, Sergeant Brown was off duty sleeping at his residence when he was awoken by a neighbor knocking on his front door. Sergeant Brown, upon answering the door, found his neighbor to be holding her unresponsive grandson who was not breathing. Sergeant Brown quickly took the child, performed CPR, back blows, until the child began to breathe on its own. Sergeant Brown then went into the residence, retrieved his department radio, and notified dispatch of the situation.
So, if you'll indulge me in this, we can summarize things, but just to feel the weight of this and the magnitude of this, I'm going to read the letter that we received from the child's mother, so forgive me if I crack my voice or I choke a little bit. Dear Chief of Police of Franklin, hello, my name is Ariana Thompson. My parents, Chris and Tracy Thompson, are neighbors of Jesse Brown's family. On October 3rd, 2024, my son Damon was spending the night with my parents. I received a call at 1:30 a.m. that my son Damon, who is 22 months old, was having a seizure. My dad called 911 as my mom tended to Damon. My mom told my dad to go get Jesse because we were already 8 minutes into the seizure. My dad was hesitant to go to Jesse for help because of the hour and not sure of the help he could provide. My mom insisted that we get Jesse. After a few seconds, my mom went to Jesse herself with Damon in her arms. The ambulance was still en route, which felt like an eternity for my parents. Jesse was awakened by his 4-year-old son, who heard the doorbell and knocked at the door. As we arrived, we saw Jesse run outside of his house and my mom holding the baby. I saw my son go limp in my mom's arms, and Mom told Jesse that he was limp and not breathing. Jesse then began to do CPR, back blows on my son's back until he started coughing, crying, and vomiting. My son's cries were faint, but he was breathing on his own. The ambulance still had not arrived. Jesse returned the baby to my mom and instructed her to keep doing the back blows because Damon was still throwing up. Jesse ran into his house to grab his radio, and the ambulance arrived shortly after Jesse was back beside my mom and Damon. I want to give Jesse Brown and his family a huge thank you. Jesse deserves a recognition for helping to save my baby's life that night. There's no amount of money to put on a life or the actions of what Jesse did that night. I cannot think of what could or would have happened if he had not been there at that time. We thanked him since this incident, but I want the people of Franklin to know how this officer came to help them have a second thought. Thank you again.
Speech.
Next up, these are 2 commendation medals. I'd like to call them up one at a time if I could. Lieutenant Tillman, if you want to come on down. Before we get started, Levi Butler. Lieutenant Tillman's Head of Investigations, Detective Levi Butler. Before we read this, I just want to share with the crowd and the public, as my tenure in chief, a little over 6.5 years, we've only given out 4 or 5 commendation medals. This is not something that we take lightly. So I want to read a little bit about it. The commendation medal may be awarded to an officer who distinguished himself by noteworthy achievement in any undocumented or documented area of police-related duty. So what I would say about that, it's very vague. We just don't hand these out. It's not something we give guys depending on the uniform. If they're wearing one of these pins, or if they're here tonight, they earn this pin. So, Levi, thank you.
Okay, I'll read this and I'll explain if there's something to add to it. But I, Chris Helm, the lieutenant of the Franklin Police Department, would like to recommend Captain Levi Butler for the Police Commendation Medal. On September 20th, 2023, the Franklin Police Department took a report of a missing person. Candace Solano, a 29-year-old female, was last seen in Indianapolis that was supposed to be traveling to Franklin to visit her 30-year-old boyfriend, a Franklin resident. Detective Butler began investigating, but quickly learned that Solano was deceased as her body had been discovered in a ditch on the north side of Indianapolis. Detective Butler found Solano's death to be suspicious because she is found in a ditch, nude, smelling of bleach, and described as being wet or damp, although discovered in a dry area. Detective Butler interviewed Solano's friends and family and met with the Marion County Deputy Coroner and IMPD investigators. He obtained search warrants for phone numbers and an Uber trip ride records. Using the information Detective Butler collected, he identified Henry Simmons as a person of interest. But due to Detective Butler's limitation of jurisdiction, he shared the information he collected with the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department and the FBI. On September 27, 2024, IMPD Overdose Drug Task Force and the IMPD Criminal Intervention Units arrested Henry Simmons for dealing in a controlled substance resulting in death and adding an additional charge of drug and firearms. Detective Butler's work product led him to being referenced 68 times in the final probable cause affidavit. I, Lieutenant Chris Dillon, along with all the detectives of the Franklin Police Department, want to take this opportunity to thank Detective Levi Butler by acknowledging his persistence and outstanding professionalism demonstrated through the investigation into the death of Candace Solano. But rarely does someone come along that rises all of us up, and that's what Levi does. He comes from dispatch, he understands technology. So we're all better for everything that you do on a daily basis. Thank you.
I want to get a picture with the wife and the mayor real quick. We got one last.
We got one more?
Yep.
Good.
Chris Turlow. This one that Captain Mears is going to read is also a commendation medal. Crazy thing about it is, I'm sure Chris is trying to figure out what it is, or maybe he knows. But to be honest with you, I'm surrounded and blessed with just a wonderful department. These guys go above and beyond all the time. And we truly appreciate all you do. We want to recognize you tonight.
This is dated September 25th. Dear Mayor Steve Barnett, I would like to thank you for such an awesome police department. One of your officers went above and beyond on September 20th, 2024. The officer's name is Chris Kurloff. Officer Kurloff was assigned to respond to a call on September 20th in Franklin at around 8:30 p.m. My daughter was in an accident on US 31. My daughter, as a new driver, was very upset and scared. Officer Kurloff assured her that everything would be all right. I got the call that she was in an accident and was on my way to the scene. We are residents of Whiteland, so it didn't take me long to get there. Thank God she was not injured. Please acknowledge Officer Kurloff's appreciation for the Franklin Police Department.
So that's, I just want you to know that letter did come to my office, and I make sure that when we get those kind of things, that it gets to the proper department heads. Because most of the time we get complaints, we don't get. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
Jennifer Price.
Okay, thank you. It's always nice to see stuff like that come before us and get to celebrate a little bit. Okay, is there any other announcements or public comments that doesn't have anything to do with the agenda? Seeing none, as the people leave that want to leave, we will go on to the next item.
Move to approve the consent agenda from the City Council meeting December 2nd.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Didn't think so.
Move to read old business by title only.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item number 1 on old business, approval of ordinance 2024-12, amending general provisions, building sewers and connections and rates and charges related to the sewer service system. It is a public hearing tonight. Senior Planner Joanna Tinnell. Joanna here?
There she is.
Good evening. This was introduced at the last meeting, and this meeting this evening is for the public hearing. The reason this is coming before you is with the rate increase adoption ordinance, and earlier in '24, there are two types of customers. There are metered customers and there are unmetered customers. With the new updated ordinance, the rate for the unmetered customers is a little over $78 per month. There were some concerns brought before the city in regard to the way that was figured. In order to provide an option for those customers that are on wells and not cities or public sewer, or no, public water, there we go. We wanted to come up with an option on how they could be reclassified from unmetered to metered. So with this ordinance that's before you, there is the proposal to allow those citizens to be able to have a flow meter that's installed that would calculate their actual usage of water, and would then, once the time frame passed, they would then become a metered customer, just like everyone that is on public water. The time frame in which the average water usage occurs is from October to March. The reason it is from October to March is to make sure that we don't take into account any use of water for watering gardens, the lawn, filling swimming pools, washing cars, all of those things that we do in the summertime that we don't do in the wintertime. So that's why that average is done from October to March. If this is approved, any of those individuals that are on well would be able to hire a plumber, come before the city with a specific manufacturer model number of the flow meter, and get that approved. One of the requirements for that flow meter is that it would be installed on the service line directly into the house, and then also that it would be able to be accessed remotely. So that way, we don't have to go to each individual's home to gain the information on how much water they're using. It would actually go to, some sort of program that these flow meters provide, and then we would need to have access to each of the accounts in order to do that. So that's what is proposed this evening before you, and it is ready for public hearing.
Joanna, can I ask a question?
Sure.
It's not, this affects, and you said, all people that's not metered. However, new builds, you want to talk about new builds
Oh,
just
sure.
a little bit?
Yep, so anytime there is a brand-new residence built in the city of Franklin, even if they are on public water, they are charged the unmetered rate until the time has come where their average from October to March has occurred. So anybody who is moving into a home today, they will be charged that 78, I think 63 is what it is, for all months up until April of next year, April or May of how that gets into billing. Because we wouldn't be able to get their average until October to March has passed.
Okay, thank you.
Joanna, did we have an example of what type of flow meter is allowable? And do we have any price ranges or model numbers or anything for the public?
We do have that available in our office.
Okay, okay.
You know, the price range does range. Some of them that we had seen were around $300, $400, and you can go all the way up to one that I saw was $1,200.
I see.
Obviously, that's a big range. And then I do know that there are a number of individuals that are in the process of getting quotes from plumbers on being able to get a cost estimate on how much it would take to install.
I see, okay.
Yeah. So since the last meeting, I've done a little bit of research, and there are a lot of unknown variables for residents. In Paris Estates, they're the ones who are mainly affected. And, you know, between my research and different things I've heard from different residents, while I'm not totally against the option of a meter, I just wonder if there are better options, if there's something else that we can do. We've gone this long with a calculation that we don't even know how it was first calculated. And so I would love to see some numbers and some suggestions that maybe would provide better options. Like I said, maybe in the end, the meter is the only way. I don't know. But I would move to table the ordinance until at least January to get some more information, and maybe we can come back and present those. And so that the residents can see, okay, what have we looked at? And if there are other options, then can we explore those? So that's my motion.
I would second the motion.
Okay, I'm good with that. When we do that, I think, Ann, you need to put maybe a couple of you together and get with our engineering people and probably Jeff Peters on how is that
Yeah.
going to affect what we're trying to do with the new sewer plant that is
Absolutely.
coming down.
Because I know the
road.
bond has to be taken into consideration as well. I understand that, but.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Jeff did calculations based on 4,000
Okay.
gallons, so I think he could easily pull that up for you.
So, yeah, if we could get that information, I think it would be helpful.
6,000.
6,000 instead of 4,000? Thank you, Joanna. Yeah, but I know he did those numbers, so it should be readily available.
Okay, with that being said, Ann has made a motion, Kenny seconded it. So we need to call a vote. All those in favor of tabling signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
For
thank you,
pur-
Ann.
for
And you'll get
purposes-
with,
I will.
Yeah, thank
Yes.
you.
For purposes of the public notification, was your motion to table it to the first meeting in January?
We might need the second meeting in January. We're not sure. So how would we?
Do you want to revise your motion then?
Because
With your-
ultimately, you can't change the price right now anyway.
Right,
Because
correct.
they're not going to meter it, so it's not going to change
No.
a customer's base right now
Right,
anyway.
no,
So
right.
if we push it off until the second one in January, it would be the same.
to give more time.
I think it's the 22nd. I think it's a Wednesday that week.
Yeah, because of Martin Luther King Day, I believe.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So it would be, are you moving to table it to the January 22nd meeting?
Yes, I am.
And you seconded that motion?
Second.
Okay, so that's what we've already voted on, to table it to January 27th,
Okay.
22nd.
22nd.
Yes, sir.
Get that straight.
And it's a Tuesday, correct?
So
Wednesday.
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 Yeah,
Thank
Martin
you.
Luther King Day's on Monday, that's the 20th.
So this is Wednesday. Okay,
That'd
thank
be a
you.
Wednesday. Mhm.
Did I just make that up?
That's
I got it-
correct.
I got it wrote down there. It's this Wednesday the 2nd,
Okay.
22nd. Okay,
Right.
so that one's tabled. Next item, item number 2, approval of ordinance 24-11, repealing ordinance 15-10, employee handbook, clerk treasurer Jan Jones.
This was introduced at the last meeting. Since then, we've had a lot of feedback, and we have made some amendments to the handbook. So if it were to be approved tonight, it would be with these amendments. I'll go ahead and list the amendments and then obviously go from there. Dealing with Merit Fire Department employees, starting in the 2026 calendar year, they would be able to go ahead and carry over 72 sick hours if they had them, so that they would potentially start with 144 sick hours. They would, the 72 carried would be floating. Floating benefit hours may be used in any increment as long as it's approved by the chief, so it doesn't have to be used in a shift or 12 hours or whatever. Also, under fire and police, for the 2025 calendar year only, dealing with comp hours. So if somebody has the max comp hours, which is 480, obviously that's going to be paid out at the end of next year, but we'll split it into two banks for you so that you have 240 and 160. You can this year only pull from the 160. So if you drop below the 160, you could earn comp hours back to fill that 160 at the end of the year. Both of those would be paid out to you. Then starting 2026, obviously comp would start back at 0. You could build to 160, paid out at the end of the next year, and so on. The biggest thing is, I know we had a lot of issues with being called in to work and only being paid straight time until you hit the overtime. And so we did a lot of talking about that, and we agree that if you're being called in and you're working above and beyond your normal schedule, we will pay the time and a half versus the straight time until you hit the 212 and then being paid overtime. So that was definitely a big change that I know Chief had talked about and fought for, and we okayed. So those are the major changes, that amendments that are put into the handbook that, if approved, would be approved with those amendments.
Okay, thank you.
Jan.
It is going to be a public hearing. Does anybody on the council want to speak before the public hearing, or wait until after?
I'll just wait till after.
Okay, at this time, we will open this up for public hearing.
Sir, do you have a time limit?
20 minutes collectively,
Okay.
and that's what we do every single time. So,
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I need about 14 of it, maybe. So I drew short straw tonight. Those of you that don't know me, my name's Chuck Ridpath, and I'm a 23-year veteran for the City of Franklin Fire Department. And tonight I'm here representing on behalf of our firefighters. Some of my speeches just changed today. I wrote this on Friday. Obviously, you guys have had some changes, and we really do appreciate that you're working with us on this. And so I tried to cut everything out. I can't promise you that some of it still may not reflect before the changes, so if you'll just bear with me on that. So essentially, I kind of go through this so you have perspective. Sometimes I think we get looked at as like, why are they griping? Why are they complaining? And so I kind of want to, if you'll give me a chance here, I just want to give a little bit of history of my 23 years. So I hope you'll bear with me for just a minute. So in order to help you better understand how we operate, here we go. There are things over the course of my career that have directly affected our firefighters and public safety in general. This is going to be very fact-based, and it's taking absolutely no shots at anybody. The council's proposed ordinance 2024-11, which is the reason for the crowded room tonight, originally did not reflect the needs and interests of the fire department. But however, I'm going to change that. I think we can still work on just a few things on it. I can still vividly remember August 13, 2001, the day I began my career with the City of Franklin Fire Department. At the time, Franklin was the only career fire department in Johnson County. To get hired, I competed with 80 to 100 other applicants, which was typical for a turnout for a tryout at our department at that time. Fortunately, I was able to finish third on the list. When I was hired, I was on the hiring list of several other departments, including the Indianapolis Fire Department. But no matter what offers came in, Franklin was home to me, and it's where I wanted to be. I grew up in Edinburgh and spent most of my weekends up here in Franklin, cruising the square and making friends up here in Franklin. I have always taken great pride in serving this community, knowing that many family members and friends live here, and that brings an extra level of motivation to be the best I can be. I have always strived to educate myself in all aspects of firefighting and emergency medical services. I've obtained numerous tech-level certifications in areas such as hazmat, rope rescue, vehicle machinery, confined space rescue, and swiftwater rescue. In 2005, I obtained my certification as a paramedic. Since I've also served on the review board and pension boards. Education does not stop once a course has been completed or passed. There are numerous hours of continuing education that we all must complete yearly. Something that no amount of education can replace, however, is real life experience. Over the course of a career, I've experienced many challenging situations. As I started out early in my career, I relied on the experience of the seasoned officers and firefighters leading me. As time passed and experience was gained, I eventually became a lieutenant, a role in which I serve today. I pride myself on being dedicated and loyal to my department and to the city of Franklin. Now I want to talk to you about the changes over my career, including changes that have directly impacted the department and that have brought about some of the issues that are leading to the proposed changes that you will vote on this evening. I don't know how much you know about how we operate, so I'll give a quick synopsis. Firefighters work a 24-hour on, 48-hour off schedule. This schedule is unique from any other job in the city and probably all over the world. Because of this unique schedule, the city handbook and SOGs and SOPs are different from any other department in the city. The 24-hour schedule can have its benefits at times, but does come at the price of missing family events, children's sporting events, school events, and holidays. We spend our days off catching up on errands, housework, making up for lost time with children, and trying to catch up on the many hours of lost sleep. And let me tell you, I'm 49, it gets a little bit harder with age. Firefighting is much more than just pulling a hose out and spraying the hot stuff. We must acquire and maintain skills in chemistry for things such as hazardous materials emergencies. We must be engineers when we extricate persons trapped in vehicles or machines, and we must act on our own as mechanics, be familiar with building construction, and keep up with the ever-changing technology that is pertinent to our jobs. Additionally, we offer a paramedic service to our citizens. However, you may not fully understand the value or the full scope of what it takes to be and keep paramedics. We are essentially the doctor's hands and eyes in the field. We are essentially bringing the ER to the patient. For example, if you are having chest pains or a heart attack, you will get the exact same treatment as you would if you were having that in the ER. We can do many things even nurses are not allowed to do. We can intubate patients, do a surgical cricothyrotomy, which is if you have to cut a hole in somebody's throat to help them breathe, and I promise I'm going somewhere with all this, and amputate limbs in severe cases when a person is trapped and can't be extricated. We can do post-mortem C-sections, which is if a lady is 20 weeks pregnant and maybe she's in an accident and deceased, we can actually do a C-section, cut the baby out, and try to revive the baby. And we carry and use paralytics and sedatives for our patients, which is a pretty big deal, and we carry the same emergency drugs as an ER. I mention all of this to reiterate the important and necessary service that we provide to the community. Over the course of my 23 years as a firefighter, there have been decisions made by past councils that have come to affect the retention of firefighters, which in turn has recently led to periods of being short-staffed due to vacancies, causing the need for a lot of the overtime that we've had. The first example I will present and won't elaborate on was in 2002, I believe the longevity that was in place was taken from both police and fire departments. So an example of paid a firefighter with 20 years of experience and knowledge will only make $1,000 more than a brand new guy coming through the door with no experience. Additionally, in regards to our service, our fellow firefighters who also serve in the military used to receive enough hours of military leave to cover their annual service, which translates to 1 week in a month and 2 weeks out of the year. This was changed to 120 hours, which due to the number of hours we work is not enough to cover these firefighters that selflessly serve our country. To serve, they must try to trade shifts to cover the time that they are gone, and then they must pay back that person after working and work a 48-hour shift, which also is 72 out of the next 96. Our city used to do the right thing and give the necessary days to serve, knowing that 120 hours was designed for a civilian working 40 hours a week. However, this is an attractive benefit, although not required, was the right thing to do for our military. The next thing we know lost was light duty.
Light duty allowed a firefighter that was injured the ability to work while injured 5 days a week, doing desk work and other light tasks, so they can still receive a full paycheck. However, this was replaced with short-term disability, which up until the proposed new ordinance was not necessarily an issue, as an injured firefighter could receive 75% of pay, and they could use build-up sick time to supplement and get a full paycheck. This once again brings us to one of the reasons this room is full this evening. As a young firefighter, I was told to save my sick time whenever possible because you never know when you may get sick or injured and need it. I took the advice and saved my time, as have numerous other guys and gals from our department. If a civilian employee in our city breaks their arm, they are most likely back to work within a day or two. We do not have that luxury. If we break a bone, get critically ill, including illnesses like cancer, or even have something as simple as a back strain, we cannot return to work until we are healed 100% and released by our physician. We have many firefighters that have young children. Living off 75% pay and not having the ability to earn and save sick time to supplement could financially doom a family. The number we need to earn to supplement our short-term disability is 240 hours. So this is something you're voting on tonight. I believe we're at 72, and then we can carry over 72, so 144. These hours are earned by not calling in sick, which means you've been a dependable, dedicated employee. Did not do that. So tonight, I implore you to do the right thing and change the current plan to 240 hours. Further, it is my understanding that there was an issue with the overtime that some have worked. Let me quickly explain how this works. If we fall below our minimum staffing for a particular shift, overtime must be called from a list by the battalion or acting battalion. Once an individual accepts the overtime shift, their name is moved to the very bottom of the list. If there happens to be overtime the next day, the calls are made again until someone accepts, even if it gets to the bottom again. The individual that worked the most this year, individuals that worked the most this year, which I'm in that group, we're at a different stage in our life. We can say yes a lot more than a guy with kids. So that's why maybe some people had more, earned quite a lot earned a lot this year. Please understand that if an overtime shift is not taken, there is the possibility that an engine could be shut down for the day. An overtime shift means we are working 48 hours or 72 out of the next 96 hours. We should focus on the question as to why there has been so much overtime this past year. This is going to be a hard truth, but the reality is that although this city is beautiful and has a lot to offer the community, the effects of the past council's decisions, such as losing longevity plan, has allowed our neighboring departments to surpass us in pay and benefits by quite a large margin. We are no longer competitive comparably and have become a stepping stone for young firefighters coming onto our department. We have also lost some of our experienced guys and gals to some of these other county departments, as departments like Bargersville and White River have allowed lateral transfers. These firefighters started out making more than what they made when they left here and will far surpass what they could ever be able to make here. We all understand that we are just a department within the city, and you guys, you guys, the council, are tasked with the great responsibility of how to divide funds between all of the departments. We understand that. Our firefighters understand that we may not make the same as these other departments, but we should be doing everything we can to make Franklin Fire Department as attractive as possible. My oldest son is a Shelbyville firefighter and obtained his paramedic license over the summer. He was on our hiring list and received a job offer here in April. He initially accepted the job, and I'll tell you, I was very excited of the prospect of him coming here. But one day I listened to him after a shift, and how happy he was working there. I realized how happy he was working there. I decided it was time to sit him down and just reevaluate the whole situation. After talking to him, I gave him the hardest advice that I could give, in which he would be better off to not come here to Franklin. I cited the pay and benefits that we receive there, and that over my career, the history is we've lost a lot of stuff. So he stayed, and unfortunately, here we are, we're kind of negotiating again to not lose benefits or to not lose our benefits. This also happened with one of our other current firefighters' son, who is also in Shelbyville. Okay, so tonight, our ultimate request is that we do not change anything this year, and instead form a committee of council members and firefighters and reevaluate these changes and what effects both short and long-term might be. We also should take the time to explore how we can retain firefighters. The uncomfortable truth is that when you compare us with surrounding departments, they are paying more, have newer, more dependable equipment, and are always looking to build to make things better each and every year. Their communities see the value that they bring, and they are investing in them. We will always lose an occasional applicant or firefighter to places like Indianapolis Fire Department, but we should absolutely not be losing that many firefighters to other departments in this county. Since 2005, we have lost 33 of our guys to other departments. 18 of those went to Bargersville, Greenwood, and White River. In the same time period, only one has came from any of those three to come work for us. So just quick, just being factual, comparison and pay. A third-year firefighter in White River will make $82,727, and they also get stipend pay if they work a higher position. If they work as a firefighter working in a lieutenant's role, lieutenant working captain, there's a stipend there of like $5 or $6 an hour. I do want to give you guys credit because we do know that you guys have worked on our pay. You guys have been working on that over the last several years, and we do see that. We appreciate it. But unfortunately, the reality is that without a form of a longevity plan, along with losing the benefits that might make us a little more attractive, we will continue to fall behind, which will be detrimental to retaining the best skilled firefighters in our department and on our list of new candidates. You may not be aware, but our current list only has one candidate out of the 12 remaining because the remaining candidates have not met the requirements as far as proper certification and/or haven't passed a physical agility test. This is after we had to lower our standards to get more on our hiring list by lowering the written test score from 80% to 70%. Personally, I feel we should never lower our standards, as this is a life and death job. As a department, we are dedicated to serving and being a part of this great city. But the city must change the way of thinking and see the value of the education and knowledge that is possessed within our members and choose to invest in us. I mentioned my education and certifications earlier. We have many members with the same certification as me, and some even more. We have firefighters that are nurses, accountants. We have people serving in elected positions in their hometowns, construction workers, engineers, and I could go on and on. We must focus on the retention of not only young, but keeping our experienced firefighters from leaving for more lucrative pay and benefits. These men and women put their lives on the line for our community, and we strongly urge you to hear and reflect what we have laid forth this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. It was exactly 14 minutes and
Was
30
it? All
30
right.
seconds.
All
You
right, not
practiced.
bad.
Thank you. 5 minutes left, sir. 5 minutes and 40 seconds.
Council, if I may approach the board on this issue 2024-11. Good evening. My name is Cole McKnight. I'm a lieutenant with the City of Franklin Fire Department. I'm here tonight on behalf of my fellow firefighters, my family, and myself. Unfortunately, tonight happens to be my first wedding anniversary, and instead I am celebrating here with my wife and speaking to you on this issue. That deeply impacts us all. Thankfully, my wife is an incredibly understanding person and knows how important this discussion is to us, not just for me, but our family and for the future of every firefighter in this city. I want to share a story that only a few know, so this will not only be a surprise for you as the council, but also my coworkers as well. It's deeply personal, but it highlights the importance of what I am here to discuss tonight, so please bear with me. My father, Dale McKnight, was also a lieutenant with the City of Franklin Fire Department. He loved his job and dedicated his life to serving the city and its residents. Unfortunately, it would cost him his life. Firefighting is more than a job. It's a calling. Every firefighter here has a sworn oath to protect our community, even at a risk to their own lives. We are willing to walk into danger, knowing the risk. I can confidently speak for every man and woman in uniform here. Whether they took the oath a few years ago or just recently, would charge into a smoke-filled home at 2 a.m., knowing efforts might be in vain, and if that meant sacrificing their lives and leaving their families, spouses, and children behind, they would do so without hesitation. My father was no different. He served the city for 16 years. At the age of 39, he was diagnosed with an advanced form of lung cancer, and diagnosis directly related to his work. At 9 years old, I watched my father wither away from 1 to 2 chemotherapy treatments a week, followed by radiation caused by this job. He fought valiantly to return to work despite losing nearly half of his right lung. But the cancer came back, spreading aggressively within months. My father was gone at the age of 40. Firefighters face significantly higher risk of cancer compared to the general population. We are 2.5 times more likely to contract cancer compared to the general population. 66% of line-of-duty deaths among firefighters are cancer-related. Increased cancer risk for firefighters are 2 times greater risk of testicular cancer, 2 times greater risk mesothelioma, 1.53 times greater for multiple myeloma, 1.51 times greater for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, 1.39 times greater for melanoma, 1.31 times greater for risk of brain cancer, 1.28 times risk for prostate cancer. 63% of all firefighters will develop some form of cancer in their lifetime, and that number continues to rise. There are 48 firefighters currently within the city of Franklin working. That brings the odds to around 30 of us and our families having to deal with this very real issue. Some already have currently had or are fighting these issues. The environments we protect our citizens from contain known carcinogens when they burn, but that's not the only risk we face. Our bunker gear that protects us from heat unfortunately contains fluorofluoroalkyl substances, also known as PFAS. This in itself is a carcinogen. Despite all the precautions we take, the very gear that protects us poses a long-term health risk. It's not a question of if we get exposure, but when it will affect us. As I sit now at 30 years old, it keeps me up at night not knowing if or when this could happen to me. By allowing these benefits to stay where they are, it makes me worry less for my family as if I ever to have the very same situation. My last few months with my father were as very good as they could be. He was, of course, off of work, but things were still stable. My father was able to supplement his time with his paid time off, our sick time, occurred during his years of employment with the city. During all of his treatments, not knowing if death was coming for him, there was a constant of a full paycheck he could count on, not only for himself, but for his family. This is why we were able to bank this time. It gets us by in tough times in hopes we will never have to use it, but unfortunately, more than half of the time we will. This time allows us the benefit of getting treatments to get back to work faster, stronger, for not just cancer, but for any human-like illness or injury, or might give us 1 extra year with our family before we leave this world abruptly. The ability to bank sick time isn't just by taking a day off when we're under the weather. It's about having the resources to fight back an illness caused by this job. It's about ensuring that we can recover and return to serve the community stronger than before. And in the worst cases, it's about giving our families precious extra time and peace in a need of crisis. By maintaining our current sick leave benefits, you're not just supporting firefighters, you're supporting their families, their futures, and the community that we serve. Thank you for your time.
That's it, sir.
You guys had that time down.
Yeah.
Good job.
I think I just need like
We got 40 seconds.
40 seconds. All right. My
37
name is
seconds.
Casey Hartman, and I am a firefighter paramedic with the city of Franklin. I just want to bring to light that not all firemen are men, and I am obviously a female. And the sick time, you need to take into consideration for pregnancy, because you cannot wear all of the gear and carry a baby and only have 6 months, because then you're forcing me to go to less of my pay or even into long-term disability just so I can have a child. It's something that you desperately need to take into consideration, because I probably worked too long when I was pregnant, and it puts myself and my child at risk. So just something to take into consideration.
Thank you.
so
Got
much.
anything else? We
Thank
won't
you.
cut you off. Do you
No,
got
that's fine.
All right, thank you. So to start with, I just want to say before the council starts speaking, I kind of get taken back whenever I hear that we don't care about our firefighters. I'm here to tell you tonight, we care about our firefighters and we care about our police, and public safety is our number one, that's our number one priority. And for me to say that, I want to back it up with a little bit, because I totally understand where you're coming from. I had my own business, okay, for 35 years, and I was a supervisor for another company. So I understand the biggest asset we have is our people, and you are our people. We get that. But I got a couple things I just want to point out here. And the reason that I want to point this out is because I hear that you don't care about us and we're falling behind and all this. Well, let me tell you, we're a city of 26,000 people. So our taxing base is not like Greenwood with 60,000 people, or White River Township that has a different taxing entity, how they get their funds. And that's just the cold facts. So when I first became mayor in 2017, we were paying a salary of $51,000. And I know Kenny was on the council at that time. I don't know if anybody else here was, but we kept saying, how can we get this up? We know we're falling a little bit behind. Lo and behold, in 2025, you will be making $72,000. So whenever you go, that's a $21,000 increase in 8 years. It's 41.18% increase. It's an average of 15% per year. And also in our 2025, and then let me back up. Our salary at $72,000, and this is the part that gets left out a lot with a lot of our employees, not just fire, not police, everybody. Our insurance is worth $22,914 each. So the $72,000 firefighter is actually $94,914. Now with our budget, in 2017, our budget was for the fire department was $3,962,000. Today, it is $5,883,000. That's an increase of 48.49% increase, $1.9 million, 6.1% a year. This year in the public safety budget, let me come back to that. So with our fire department at the $5,883,000, the insurance for our fire department, $1,214,000 that comes out of the Board of Works fund to pay for insurance. That is for fire department only. And then we have 51 firefighters. We only have 48, I think, available, but there's money in the budget for 51. And yes, we want to see more firefighters and not just stop at the 51. We realize that we need to, as we grow, we're going to need more. So we have 51 firefighters, 2 civilians. All that comes out of the general fund. And there's the ladder truck that we're getting ready to get in January. That doesn't come out of the general fund. It comes out of the CCD fund that we've been buying stuff for the police department, I know ever since I've been around, out of that fund. So with your total budget, counting the CCD fund, it would be $8,047,000. Now I want to go to the police side of it because public safety is all of it. The police budget is $6,762,000. Their insurance is $1,443,000. There's 56 police officers, 7 civilians. And then they have body cams that we take out of the IT department, which is $120,000. So their total budget is $8,326,341 for 37.20 cents. So where I'm going with that is I hope you can understand we're trying to figure out how can we give more and still run our city. Our budget for this year was $22,382,000. Public safety gets $15 million between the police and the fire, $15,424,000. That's 68.91%, which is almost 69% of the budget goes for public safety. And that's where I feel like we're doing our due diligence or doing our job to put public safety first. So we are putting public safety first, and the numbers proves it. And then also, we're trying to update our equipment. Since 2017, and I know we did some stuff before that, but that's whenever I become mayor. We've had 2 new fire trucks. We're getting the new ladder truck in January, I believe, the new battalion, a new utility vehicle, a new squad, 3 new administrative vehicles, a new MERV, new radios. We've updated equipment every time that whoever's the chief has come and asked. We have updated equipment as we should and could. And then we just remodeled Fire Station 21. I apologize it took so long to get that done. That has been one of our goals, I know, for since 2017, and we were finally able to do that. And the only reason we was able to do that was we got a grant. Okay, if we didn't get that grant, we'd still be struggling to do that. 26,000 people. Okay, and then we've added 3 firefighter positions this year that didn't get fulfilled. And I know it's harder to, and I've had the conversation with the chief, why don't we get a list going? What are we waiting on the list for? So I think that's getting ready to happen. I want to fill all these positions. So that's basically, I just wanted to get that out there because I didn't want the public to think we don't care about public safety, and public safety is our #1 job. So we do care, and I wanted you to see the numbers of where we're at. 69% goes to public safety. Just wanted you to know that. And with that said, I know I do, and I know all these folks up here, we appreciate what you do. And like you've seen in the police, we get compliments. We don't get the written letters all the time, but if we do, I'll assure you we'll pass it on. But we get compliments about our fire and about all of our workers. So I'll be done. It's a long meeting tonight, and I'll leave this to the council to carry on. Sorry about that long-winded thing. So let me say the public hearing is closed at this time. So now we're ready for council comments and go from there.
Go ahead, Todd.
I have spent a lot of time on this topic, the handbook. Obviously, I didn't think this was going to be a big issue when I took a position on the city council. Didn't envision the handbook being a major hurdle, but I've spent a lot of time with this. And obviously, the fire department, you know, I'm already your financial advisor, and many of you are already I'm your financial advisor. I have to put on a different hat tonight, okay? So I'm trying to figure out many different aspects of these benefits, and that's why they put me on these committees, because I have a background in that area. Although I quickly figured out not quite as much as I wish I had. So my question is, you're banking these hours, right? So what happens to them at this point? We're going to pay them out, is that correct? Is that where you're using to pay for short-term disability? Because that phrase keeps coming up.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
So our hours are banked up to 600 sick hours. That is we can use it if we get hurt. Let's say I walk out my house and I step in a hole, I break my ankle. I can't come to work.
Right.
So then I end up on short-term disability getting 75% of my check. Then I can use these hours to supplement that.
Okay.
But we earn them, and it doesn't cost the city anything for us to earn those hours until
There's the cost.
In the end, it costs the city. It
Yeah.
does. But it gives me peace of mind knowing that I can still get paid for my hours if something happens to me on the job or off the job, and I can't do it. So this is just a peace of mind to my family, to his family, all these people's families and it's been in the, we've been able to do it I'm on my 17th year, getting ready to start my 17th year. So I've banked these hours all this time when I could have.
Okay, so what's going to happen to the banked hours?
We're getting paid for it. I get it. But
all right.
it's
So-
not enough to cover if I can't come to work
Wait a minute.
for a long period
We
of time.
bank them, or you bank them, and we keep them for you. Is that correct?
That's true.
And now we're going to pay it out to you.
That's true.
Is it not the same? What are you going to do with the money when it goes to you? Are you going to put it in an account?
It's not about
for
getting
that?
the money right now. It's about having the ability to get paid if something happens.
I understand.
So what happens to these hours? Say like if you retire, do you keep
Then
them and you
I
roll
get
them
paid-
over?
I get paid for those hours. That's true. That's a benefit that we have.
If you leave your job, you still get them too?
Yes.
And-
I mean, it's a benefit. It's a nice benefit. I'm not saying it's not a nice benefit to have this big bank of hours banked up, but it also is a security blanket for everybody that works. And it's a hard job. And, like we can't come to work. If I break my finger, I can't come to work because I can't do my job. That's a silly little injury that a lot of people can still come to work for, but I can't. And that's what that 600 hours is about for me now. I get that in the long run, it's a nice paycheck at the end.
I just want to say one thing real quick, Irene, that the hours that we're talking about here that's banked, and what brought this to the city's attention was we have $690,000 of banked hours that's a debt to the city that on the books that we have to make sure that we have there. And then when it's time to pay out for saving all those years, there's a.
And I get that.
Like but I'm trying to educate these
Okay.
people, not you, and you've educated me on stuff, so I appreciate that.
And we appreciate all the things that you've done for us. Like, the pay has gone up tremendously, and we appreciate that. We've gotten new equipment, we've gotten remodel stations, we've gotten new stations.
Right.
And we appreciate every bit of
Okay,
that.
so let's stay on this, though. But what I'm trying to say is whenever you bank hours for that many years, what we're looking at is paying out like an interest rate of paying like $15,000 more for what they were making at a certain time. So that's how it's got to this point. Whenever we see the $690, almost $700,000 worth of debt that the city doesn't need to be carrying, we're getting ready to do some bonding stuff for a sewer project.
I'm just trying
That makes a
to, I'm just
difference.
trying to explain our point of view of
And I
these hours,
appreciate
and we
it.
were always told, bank these hours, and, you know, I would probably be okay if I got hurt, but, you know, there's people here with 4 kids. There's people here with 3 kids. I mean, young kids.
How are you accumulating these hours?
We don't call in sick. We come to work.
Okay.
I mean, it was a benefit of coming to work was these hours. And, you know.
The only fiscal analysis is they're banked at a certain pay and they're paid at the then rate.
Correct.
So that's the fiscal analysis I think you're asking
Yes.
for. If they're banked 10 years ago at that rate, they're paid out at a then earned rate.
And we understand that. And there's guys that use their sick time because they have, you know, things they need to do. But, you know, it's painful to think that for 17 years, I've tried to come to work all the time. And now, you know, you're going to pay me for them, and I appreciate that too, but this is like a safety net for my family, so.
And we're going to continue to pay you.
I get that too.
We're gonna continue to pay every year.
I'm not trying to start a fight, I just am
No,
trying to give you my perspective, our perspective of.
I hear you.
These hours.
It makes sense.
Anything else?
Well, just so the public knows, make sure that because what you said is correct. They bank an hour in 2020 at $15 an hour, and if they take it out in 2025 and they're paid $30 an hour, we actually pay them $30 an hour for those hours that they banked years ago. So we're acting as the bank for your banked hours, if that makes sense. So if you guys have the money, you could do the same thing, if I'm not mistaken. And your short-term disability pays out after the 8th day, correct? On sickness and actness?
I've never used it, I just.
Okay. Well, it's important that you know that, because you have to have.
But it's not 100%.
Yeah, it's not 100%. Do you know why they don't pay out at 100%? Anybody? There's no incentive for you to go back to work. Disability is not paid at 100%. Your long-term disability is not paid at 100%. It's paid at 60%. And the reason is there's no incentive. It's not because the city is dictating those numbers. That is disability income insurance in a nutshell, okay? So I love the fire department, and I want you guys to be happy, but I need you to make sure that you see our side, and we're trying to make sure that we accommodate you in any way we can. But the disability, I think it's important that you understand how that works and why it works the way it does, so.
Are we allowed to speak? Would we close the public hearing? Thank you.
Do you have something there, Ken?
You know, I got all the emails from everyone, and I appreciate you guys and ladies sending it to me. Some of it was somewhat offensive. I took no offense to it. I felt it was slightly offensive. Me being ex-military, being away from my family for 60 days at a time, you know, that was a job I signed up for. So, and I knew that going in the Army, that was the case going to be. Well, everyone that is being a firefighter knows they're going to be away from their families, right? I mean, that's what you guys signed up for. So that part, I don't have a whole lot of sympathy. I understand specifically with families, it is tough. I get it. I've got grandkids. My son-in-law's a pilot. He's gone 3, 4, 5 days at a time, and it's tough, and I get it. We've worked diligently over the last decade to try to get your wages up, and it was a problem, and it looks like it still needs to be addressed, and that's something we're continuing to work on. The banking of hours for 30, 40 years over someone's career, I'm not in agreement with. I think it needs to stop. I think we're going to pay you every single dime we owe you, and then continue to let you bank hours throughout the year, and then pay you at the end of the year for the hours that you work overtime, and bank, the Kelly days, all of it. So I don't think we're taking any of that away from you, and that wasn't really the proposal that I saw. So I think there's a couple things that we need to vote on tonight, and I don't know if it's incrementally or if we want to table it, whatever you guys want to do, but we can continue to look at it, discuss it.
Kenny, I don't think they bank Kelly hours.
They don't.
Okay, so no Kelly hours, excuse me.
Yeah.
I spoke out of place there. So, yeah, I think there's some tweaks that need to be done on the fiscal side, on our side, and also for you guys to allow to continue to get paid every single hour you work overtime, and the banking that you do with the time off and so on and so forth. You can continue to do that, and we're not out here to take that away from you.
So I want to hear you say, you're not going to speak for a half hour, right? Go ahead, say what you want.
Trying to keep the 600. I think that everybody's kind of acknowledged that, like, we totally understand that today's rate and 20 years rate are totally different. But we're trying to express that 144 is too low, and we need to compromise and meet somewhere in the middle. Lieutenant Redpath mentioned that it's 240 hours would supplement us to 100% of our pay for 6 months. That's all I'm trying to say, is that there should be a compromise somewhere, because if I break my finger, one finger, I could sit at a desk all day long, but I can't do my job, even if I break one finger.
So we're at 160, and you guys want to be at
I think is it 240 or 280? I've heard different things.
144? Yes, 144. Yeah, you're right.
Council, you all know me. I'm Josh Snyder, the chief of the fire department. We're going to be allowed to carry over, which Jan and I had this conversation. I had the conversation with the mayor. When I asked her, instead of paying it down to 0, if they would go down to 72, she said, that's going to be easy, Josh. We can pay your guys down if they have 72 hours, or the police, down to 72, the maximum of 72 hours at the end of 2025, which allowed them to carry over 72 and get their new 72 at the beginning of the year, which is equivalent to 144 hours. I think what the expression is to go on to short-term disability, right off the bat, you burn 40 hours. So that's going to take them down to 104 hours. That 104 hours is going to run out in 10 weeks of pay, because you have to burn 10 hours a week per week, so you're burning 20 hours every week for a cycle to keep you at 100% pay. It's nobody's fault here tonight. And I'm very emotional because I support my guys and gals, and they know that. And that's why you all have talked to me for the last 2 weeks, because I'm very passionate about this job. I love what I do. In 19 years, I've never said, I want to go somewhere different. This is the first department I ever ran a process for, and this is where I want to retire for. And that's how this job works. You start a department, you retire at that department. But what my people are saying is, in 10 weeks of being on short-term, 10 pay cycles, I'm sorry, it's 20 weeks, 10 pay cycles, they will be out of short-term disability. So they won't make it to long-term. And some people live outside of their means. I'm not faulting from that, but that's exactly what it is. They can't, there's people that are living paycheck to paycheck, and without that 100% pay to get healed and get back on the job, in a half a year, 6 months, they would be getting into a financial crisis. Yes, Todd?
Is there a way, Jan, if we allowed more hours to keep track of the hourly pay for those hours earned in the year that they were earned? I mean, I know it'd be a little bit of additional.
No, we can't, because unfortunately, because the way the laws work, when we pay it out, we have to pay it out at the then existing rate.
Gotcha.
So that's why we have such a large amount that has to be paid out.
And I'll bring up something that happened this year. One of my guys spent 30-some days in the hospital watched his wife die. I had guys come to me and go, can we give him hours? We can't. If we could share hours, there was guys willing to give up their time banked to give him payment. And we couldn't do it. So there was guys willing to give up their sick time this year to give to him. So there was weeks that he would only take 1 day of pay in a 2-week cycle. He's like, I just want to keep my pension going and keep my health insurance going. And I'm like, we got you, man. Don't worry about it. But he spent 30-some days in the hospital watching his wife die. She came home 2 days later, she passed away. So I think that's what the big issue is guys, like Casey said, we break one finger, we can't come to work. Mayor, you and I have talked about short-term disability. You said we could revisit it down the road. And I mean, that's where some of my people, when we had short-term disability, guys could come in.
You're talking about light duty.
Light duty,
You're
I'm
talking about
sorry, I'm sorry, Lynn, light
Got
duty.
the what?
I'm sorry, light duty. Guys could come in, work light duty, and draw 100% of their pay. And let me tell you, I can probably speak for everybody standing in this room. Light duty stinks. They don't want to do light duty, so that's an incentive to get better and get back to work.
When we talked about that, there has been instances that it was taken advantage of.
In the past, yes.
Lo and behold, I'm at a meeting and I'm talking to other mayors about how they run fire departments and how they pay. And, I mean, we discuss this with, I'm run across other mayors almost every day. And lo and behold, I said, we were talking about the fire department. He says, I have an issue with one of my firemen now. I got to go back and address. He's been on the
Light duty.
Light duty.
He's been on the light duty. They had a time limit on how long you can be on light duty. He was like 9 months, and I think they were like 3 months light duty or 6 months or what. And somehow it was taken advantage of in that instance. That's what I'm saying. That is what the hangup has been with the light duty, is because people take advantage of it.
Take advantage of it,
When I talked
yes.
about me having my own construction company and my own business with over 100 employees, we did light duty. And I will tell you that the construction guys that I had, they didn't want to be in an office shuffling papers.
No.
They wanted to get the hell out of there.
Yeah,
So-
and that's why I brought it up, just because, like I said, I can pretty easily speak for every firefighter in here. They don't want to be in my office, do you guys? Because I'm going to make them do stuff they don't want to do. They want to be firemen. They don't want to be in there going through files, going out, hey, go check these hydrants, stuff like that. So thank you for letting me speak.
From a council's perspective, light duty was eliminated because there were more people that took advantage of it, not the fire department.
I know,
okay?
not the fire department.
Not the fire department. There were more people, because you have to do a citywide policy.
Yes.
As you all sit here, you're for the citywide. And the theory, there were more people who went on light duty because they had it available, as opposed to those who were off duty with short-term disability who worked hard to get back. And anecdotally, that was the experience that management was having at that point in time. That for every one who worked hard to get back, you had 4 or 5 who elected to take light duty. And that was the problem.
But I just want to thank you for everything that you guys have worked with me on. My questions have gotten answered in a timely manner. We've came to conclusions, Jan and I, the city council members, the mayor. A lot of the stuff we have tweaked in the last week just by us informing each other and being more educated. So that's all I try to do is, if you don't understand, I try to put it in black and white for you and explain it 100%. And thank you for your time on that, and thank you for letting me speak.
Chief, while you're up there, lateral transfers, it's worked out extremely well at the police department. Kirby, correct? There's no reason why the fire department shouldn't have lateral transfers.
So Kenny, this is the difference between their lateral transfer and ours. I asked Kirby about that a year or two ago. How are you doing lateral transfers? We quit doing we started implementing lateral transfers in about 2010. Who was on the list after Craig? Yeah. Craig, when's your hire date? 2008. So around 2010, we started mandating every firefighter that got hired to have firefighter 1 and 2, hazmat, and EMT. So when Kirby, correct me if I'm wrong, when you say lateral transfer, you mean they've already been through the police academy? That's correct. My guys have been doing that since 2010. We've had that implemented since 2010. We quit hiring people without certifications because we'd have to send them to school. They would go to school, they would get comp time. That's how guys in here got 480 hours banked, because they had to go to school off duty and we had to give them comp time. And what was happening is guys would go get all their training,
Leave.
and leave.
Okay.
And then they get their paid out comp time. There was guys leaving with 480 hours and had 2 years on. So that's why we did away with it in 2010. We started putting out lists that you had to have that. Because I asked Kirby, I go, hey, how are you doing laterals? Because in a fire department, lateral means you're moving from one fire department to another fire department. And usually when you do that, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 to 1. They give you for every 3 years you have in service, they give you 1 year of service. So my last lateral that transferred out of here had 17 years on. He started that department with 5 years. So they give them time on. Back in 2007, when guys left, when Bargersville was first starting out as a career department, they were letting guys lateral in and count all their seniority. So a guy would lateral in, had 16, 17 years in the fire service. That's what they started out over there. So that's the difference between a lateral fire and a police fire. Because
Thank you.
Kirby doesn't have to send them to the police academy. He can get their orientation and get them right on the road.
You explained it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bomber.
How many hours are we different that you need, that you would like to have? Banked. 96, right?
Right.
240 you need.
Guarantee us that if a doctor won't clear us, we can at least get through our short-term disability.
That's 6 months, correct?
Yes.
6 months.
6 months. Most guys can get through short-term and don't have to go to long-term.
Understand.
But we're under physician's order when we're off.
So the compromise would be 240,
Yeah.
because that would get you to short-term
And where are we at?
144. And I understand that's a huge bank for the city to hold. But there's guys standing in here that have more than that right now, that you would pay it down to 144.
I understand. Yeah, we understand that.
To 240, yes.
But we have to encumber it going forward.
I'm sorry.
We will have to encumber it going forward in your budget.
Can you do that?
Well, we'll have to, because there's going to be, we have
do
to,
we have any idea what that estimated cost would be? I don't know, I haven't known.
Jan, can you tell us what the estimated cost would be?
So
No, I was asking her a totally different budget question. For bonding purposes, we have to encumber debts that we have that are outstanding, that are vested. So what it would be if we did that for the fire department? What is it now that we're under with all the bank time? What's the total liability now?
Like what we owe,
Yeah, what we owe?
690.
690,000?
So it would actually be, with getting the new hours, it would be 168 every year. That would keep you at 240.
If we can still roll 70.
Yeah, so It wouldn't be going down to 240, it would be going down to 168 plus the 72. That would get you at 240 at the beginning of next year.
Right. That you're taking your sick and you're banked.
Having a bank of 168 and then getting the new every year like we do would give us 240. So it's even less, Lynn.
Right. I was talking about a different analysis.
yes.
I was talking about, because we have to encumber it as a
yes.
city.
Yes, but I'm saying
Because it's a debt.
it would lower the number a little bit more.
Pardon me?
So it's adding, how many more hours is it actually adding from what we said, the 140?
96,
9
144 to 240 be 96, right?
No.
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 Nope, nope.
There you go.
No.
You don't have one in the budget, Josh?
I left my phones over there, Todd. It would be taken, if you had it available, it would take you down to 168 to start the year with, and then 72 at the new year would give you the 240, and only allow us to roll 72 ever. But if a guy would know, a firefighter would know at the beginning of the year, you're getting 72, you would have your 240 to get you on short-term disability. If one of my guys breaks a leg on the way into work, walking out of their house on January 2nd, they would have their 240. And I say January 2nd because we all know we don't work, the city doesn't work January 1st, and we get our new sick time on January 2nd.
How many firefighters do you have that's in that situation now?
That have,
That have that, does everybody have that many hours? I don't
raise your
think
hand
so.
if you got 168 hours of sick time.
Okay. So it's most everybody, not everybody, but
Yes.
most? Yeah.
Right. So the thing is, it would allow you, if you allowed this, we could get a bank to 168 because the new guys that just started, they're sitting at 72 hours. If you allowed us to get to 168 banked, every year we would start with 240 hours or pay it down to 168.
So ultimately, we just need to pay you guys down to the 168. You'll be able to roll over, and you'd have 72s to get you your 240.
So-
And you'd be
So, yeah, so your manual would only allow up to 168 to be
168,
banked.
Yes.
Okay,
Because
so if
each
they've
year
already,
you-
do we have to clear,
have to allow bank the 240 because I need 168 plus 72, so January 2nd, I would have 240, not 168.
No, that's not what they're talking about, because you get 72 new ones. You get 168, Matt, and then you get 72 new ones at the beginning of every year, which gets you to your 240.
yeah.
It's 168 is banked.
So you'd only bank 168 and you get 72 every year.
Yep.
That's correct.
It's not going to work the same way.
Yeah, no.
Not at 600, you don't get extra, so I'm saying if you say bank 168 and I'm at 168, how can I get my 72? 'Cause I'm
You're going to get 72 additional hours. That was the revision.
In January of
In each
2026.
year.
Correct.
That gets you your 240. And then everything else would be paid out. Is that what you're saying? Is that what's the question?
That was my understanding of it, so that way, that you would have the 240 available to you at the beginning of every year.
But you would only roll over 168.
Correct.
Each year, plus your 72.
Yep.
That's correct.
Because the city's giving you 72 at the start of the year.
Every year.
Every
And
year.
you're rolling
Every year.
over 168, so at the beginning of every year, you have 240.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Banking 168.
And that would allow you guys to have 6 months with your short-term disability at 75% to pay your bills,
Supplement.
do what you need to do, and go from there.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know how ultimately, how to do it or what we need to do, but.
Jan, would you read the language that was proposed in the amended? Can you do that, ma'am?
I can, as far as the sick,
Well, the sick, you're given 72, correct?
right.
So that wouldn't change, but it would be the rollover, the banking.
It was in the amended email today.
I'm
Yeah.
asking her about.
I'm sorry, what, you want me to read about carrying over?
Correct. Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
So I'm just trying to see how, so fire, this is police has 72, and they can roll 72 sick into a floating holiday. So they also start with 144. I guess my question is, this has always worked for them, right? And I know their shift's different, but I don't know. I think if we're gonna okay this, we need to sit down and look at everything then. But the language now says, unused sick leave hours will be converted into floating benefit hours to be used within the next calendar year. Unused floating benefit hours are forfeit at the end of the calendar year to which they have been allotted. Beginning the 2026 calendar year, merit firefighters will be able to carry over 72 hours of sick leave as floating benefit if they have them. This is in addition to the 72.
Right.
Floating benefit hours may be used in any increment.
Thank you, that's what I was asking for. So there's a difference between the 72, which is what police have, and then they're asking for 168 instead.
This whole back and forth, not clear evidence that we need to have some thoughtful, considered collaboration.
I think we've had a lot of that going back and forth, and we've had a lot of, I've had a lot of emails and talks with a lot of people. I know a lot of people up here have had that, and your guys' situation, as you guys know, is definitely different from anybody else's within everything, and we understand that, how you work, how you get paid, your benefits, everything is totally different, and we're trying to, at the beginning of the day, I didn't know what a Kelly Day was a month ago. Very honestly, I didn't know what that was. I didn't know how your pay structure was going. I didn't, know exactly that we were paying in our city's budget, basically 70% was going to police and fire within our budget every year. Okay, so we are trying our hardest to get you guys more money every year. I've been here for 5 years, and we've put in. Over the 5 years, it was 3,500, 4,000, 5,000, and 3,000.
Yep.
We've tried to get you guys more money.
Oh, we
But
haven't
we want
tried,
to-
we've accomplished.
Yeah, but we want to, also make sure we're fair within the whole thing.
Absolutely.
And I see where you're coming with the 6 months, but Kirby, is that if we do it for the fires, does the police need that as well? Kirby? Across the board, if we did a rollover for fire, are your police officers going to be in here in the next meeting? That same thing,
Yes, the
Okay.
answer is yes.
okay?
Yeah, there's some of them standing in here right now.
I'm just, so is it, then is it, across the board, is the street department going to be coming in next?
The idea that was the task 11 months ago when it was started was that we equalize the benefits to the extent we could. Police and fire are certainly different than street, as you all know, but that was the idea. Our original task.
I have one.
And we haven't rushed through this, by the way. It has been 11 months ago that the conversation started with consultants that do this not just for a few municipalities. They do it for over 100 in the whole state and knows how it is at other departments. And quite honestly, they was kind of taken back with what we do. Like, how do you guys do this? So it has been, we have had plenty of conversations. Josh has been involved on conversations, and Matt Culp has been involved back in whenever he was chief, and there were some things that he wanted to change, but we didn't change it. So he wanted to change it to get a little bit closer to where we're headed now, but not quite to this. So Matt, you remember all those discussions that we had about banking hours and all that stuff. So I just want you to know, this is something that's been going on for a long time, and now it's up to $700,000, and we got our financial people, this is a burden to the city. It's a debt. And when we go do bonds, like I said earlier, that debt goes against us. So that's why we're going to pay it out and try to give you what we feel like we can do to roll over, but we can't give away the bank again. And that's what we've been doing. I would rather give you the wages myself, but. So where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, and Todd and I are just kind of discussing it, I kind of agree with the guys that they need to be able to get to that 240. So, I mean, I want to make sure that, if it is 6 months, if you break a leg, and do something, you break your hand, I understand that most of you guys work a second job, but this could be happening, you come out and, stub your toe on your way to work, and you're off for 6 months, and you want to take care of your family. I totally understand that, so, but we also can't, as I think you guys have seen tonight, we can't act as your guys' savings account either, and we can't continue to do that as a city and be fiscally responsible with our money, with the city's money. And,
You have to answer to taxpayers at the end of the
we
day.
have to do that, we've got to balance at both sides. And I thank you guys, I appreciate all you guys for coming. It's, and I appreciate you guys educating us on what we're doing. So I don't know how to actually go forward with it or what the other council members think, but that would be, I would
Jennifer's
like
got
to
her
see it, moved to 240.
Jennifer's got her hand up.
Yeah, sorry, I tried to chime in. So just, and first of all, I appreciate all public safety officers, right? Fire, police, whatever. So in that, you guys do your job and greatly appreciated. Our job is to watch out for the taxpayers and the employees. So, and I don't know if I've seen the fire department budget, but so hypothetically speaking, what's on average, how many people would you have off that you have to pay? So then you have to pay overtime, right?
Unlike the rest of the city, every firefighter standing in here knows every day that they are off next year. All their vacation is done for 2025. Their Kelly days, it goes Kelly days, then week's vacation, then single days. So all their vacation is done for all of next year. We allow 4 firefighters off per shift per day. That's it.
And
That's
so
a
what about
maximum.
that sick bank? So hypothetically speaking, so you have one person on that, like that you, or,
If somebody calls in sick, then we fall below 12 people working, then we call somebody in sick.
And pay them
Minimum
time and a half.
staffing. Huh?
you pay them overtime or time,
Yes,
whatever?
yes.
So have you built, and I can't, again, I haven't seen your specific budget, but are you prepared for if?
Overtime?
Right, I mean,
Yes.
so if more, I mean,
Yes.
how, what metrics do you use, I guess, for?
So I have not come to the council this year
Gonna do the same for everybody?
because I was short-staffed. I stayed within my means of my 100 series budget with all the overtime that was paid out this year. I stayed within my means and I never had to come and ask the council for more money to pay for overtime. What happens, and Jennifer, I apologize, I haven't spoke to you. What happens is, while I have a vacant spot, I started the year with 3 new hires that the mayor and I worked on last year and he brought to the council, and we got approved to hire 3 new people. I don't know when the last time it was that the fire department had up staffing. But I also started in the hole, at January 5th, I started in the hole with 3 people from the prior year. A guy left in July, a guy left in November, and a guy left January 5th. One left the fire service, one went closer to where he lived, and one went to IFD. We're not asking to compete with IFD. We can't compete with IFD. So I started out essentially with 6 spots. I kept track of how much those 6 firefighters' salary was every pay period. On February 12th, my new list got approved to start hiring people because my old list was exhausted. It started in November is when we started getting the list. They have to go and take a test, they have to interview, and then they get scored and I get a list. Well, then I go down through that list. Okay, this person's qualified. I call and give him a job offer. They accept it. It's then I have to send them to the state to get a physical and a psychological exam. From the time I call to the time I can hire them is upwards to 8 weeks. So they have to get a schedule in to get an appointment, and it's the same way for the police when they hire a brand-new person. We all have to go to the same doctor in Indianapolis, take a physical, and take a psychological exam. Mr. Admeyer was our merit attorney for 24 years. This is the first time in 24 years he not only had 1, but 2 firefighters fail a psychological exam. And we had to, and the bad thing is, They had everything they needed to become a firefighter. They had firefighter 1, 2, hazmat, EMT, and their CPAD card. But up here, they couldn't cut it, so.
Let me ask you, as my client, council members, would it be of benefit to you, given the nature of the questions that you have asked, if you knew the fiscal impact to the city if we allowed police and fire to carry over 168 hours?
Yes.
Would that be of benefit to you before you made a decision?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because what I'm hearing from you,
Well,
from 11 months ago, when we wanted to treat the public safety equivalent,
yes.
it's hard to say what they would get and then say what, without knowing. I would expect the police to come in and ask for the same.
Sure.
And
How much
that way you could quantify what that amount would be, and you could make the determinations. Because we know the amount now is $700,000. So maybe we could compare apples to apples. Would that be of assistance to you?
Yeah,
Yes.
It needs to happen. We need
I mean,
to table it.
And I was going to say, if that's what you're going to do, then I think you'll have to table it so that we can give you that empirical data.
Remind me how many hours you can bank now?
600, I believe, is that right? No,
Yes.
With the old handbook, 606, 480 comp.
Okay.
yeah,
And you're-
thank you.
You're asking for 168.
But police is 72.
I understand,
So
yeah.
there will be, and maybe you won't go that direction, but based on what is obvious, I would think that would be the next question from our men and women in blue.
It's going
Well,
to be less than half of what it's costing us now.
maybe. I mean, you factor in salaries and everything else. We can get that number.
And we'll need that number too, moving forward, to do this properly.
Because
Vote
that,
Yea or nay, or tweak, or you want 6 months, maybe we can get 4 or 5, I don't know. But
But we can get, you are the fiscal body, the elected fiscal body for the city, and I feel, based upon the discussion that I have heard as your attorney, you would like to know those numbers.
Yeah.
Is that true?
That's true.
Good. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is there anything else we need to know to come back with?
Not to my knowledge, Mayor, other than the fact we need more information and data, like Lennon mentioned. With that said, I make a motion to table it till the next meeting.
Second.
Which is the January
Well, there's the
Si-
meeting on January 7th,
7th, January 7th?
6th,
Sixth.
January
January
6th,
6th.
or the
Is-
22nd.
Does that give us enough time to get that information, get it out, and also get it to everybody?
Well, to be frank with you, I think the clerk treasurer's office has to use their comp time or they'll lose it. And so.
And all civilians.
Okay, so, and I'm sorry?
So civilian, yeah.
Yeah, so it might
I mean,
make,
they, starting the new, yeah.
okay, so will you have adequate time to be able to do that before the 7th meeting?
The
6th
6th.
meeting? No, you need more time?
That 22nd, and I think that would give everybody enough
Okay.
time for input as well.
Okay, just run this out there, come to 22nd, we're going to have 2 big meetings again, so just be
Yep.
prepared.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion. Did we get a
A
second?
motion to table to January 22nd.
Second.
Josh already did the second.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none.
Thank you,
Here's where we're
council. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Gray. Thank you, Jan.
at. Okay, and the next item is also, Jan, you want to go ahead and,
Yeah, it was introduced, it was pending the above, so it'll automatically be tabled to tie in with the handbook.
okay, so item number 3, the approval of budgetary ordinance 24-22, amending budgetary ordinance 24-20. Salary ordinance will be tabled until the 22nd of January. We need a motion for that.
A motion to table to the 22nd.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Well, there is no new business. I'd still like to, if the council wants to speak tonight, start with Josh.
Nothing new tonight.
Okay, Ian,
No, thank you.
Ken,
Hey, Merry Christmas to everyone. Please be safe. You and your families continue to be safe out there. Appreciate all the hard work that you guys are doing. It's very well noted. And take care.
thanks, sir. Sean?
Kind of saying this with Kenny, thanks for coming in tonight. I appreciate it, you know, kind of shed some more light to the subject. And just once again, you know, we're not firemen that are up here. We don't live in your shoes. You know, I didn't know what a Kelly Day was 3 months ago, to be very honest. I knew you had them, didn't know what they were. So we had to do a lot of education on our side, but I hope you guys see it on our side as well, that ultimately we're trying to balance the budget and we're trying to get you guys as much as we possibly can. You know, at the end of the day, we don't want anybody to be, you know, leave because just for a better opportunity. We want to have a good opportunity here for you guys. So thank you. Merry Christmas, you guys.
Thank you for letting us sift through all this information. It is there's a lot of material here, and it took me a while, and I'm still catching up, so appreciate it. I just wanted to point out, for most of you don't know, that the Christmas lighting downtown, excuse me, had 13,300 people in downtown Franklin on Saturday night. Just another tribute to the city and the efforts that they do to make magic happen. So thank you very much. Merry Christmas to all of you.
Irene?
I just want to say thank you to our first responders. We do, and we will work with you guys. You know, we do want to stand behind you and support you all we can. And just thank you. Thank you for everything. And we are listening too, but I mean, I think we can work together. I think we can sort this out and work together and have it to where it's an equal balance for all of us. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you. Jennifer?
So I won't go, I'll just echo what all of these fine people have said. And then just an update, we had our first grant presentations this morning for the opioid money, and we gave 3 grants at $50,000 each for opioid. 4? No.
4. Lily came in too. Or Lily.
Riley.
Riley.
Riley came.
Yeah, but I thought the upstream and Rise were the same. Granted money today.
Good job. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay, now Madison's on the Mayor's Youth Council, and you got to sit through a pretty good meeting tonight and learn a lot, right?
Yeah, I sure did. I'm here with Matthew, Carter, Emma, and Liz tonight. And our contract today got awarded to Houston Electric, so we will be able to move forward with our lights at the pickleball courts. Very exciting.
Thank you. Good job. Chan, you got anything? Anybody else? Tara?
Real quickly, I just want to remind the council members that our Christmas party is Friday. Doors open at 10:30 at the Legends. It starts at 11. And the community outpour was amazing. We have over $10,000 in gifts that we're giving to our city.
Awesome. Thank you. Lynn?
No, no, sir.
Okay, I don't have anything but just to say Merry Christmas to everyone. I've already said, and all these folks here, we do care about public safety. That is our #1 priority, and we will continue to be that way, no matter how this comes out. So thank you all for coming tonight. Need
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
What is today, the 16th?